Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Van Meter, and today I had a really fun and insightful conversation with Mark Heston, President of Colinear Machine in northern New Jersey. So Colienear is a sophisticated machine shop, about 45 employees or so, that specializes in landing gear and helicopter parts. Really complex parts and assemblies that not every shop would be game to try. And Mark, along with some equity partners, bought this business about 2 years ago, and it's really been sort of a turnaround story. They've made some huge changes. It really was a sort of true mom and pop shop before that. You know, it was a company that had done well, obviously, getting into this market and specializing in what they specialize in, but they really lacked a lot in the sophistication of their processes and systems, and more probably, I think, of the traditional, win a job and sort of throw it across the wall to manufacturing and have really talented people figure out how to get it done. So they've focused a huge amount on their upfront engineering and planning and quality of processes, and that has made a massive impact. He said that's the biggest impact they've seen in the last couple of years as they've really grown the business quite a bit. So he, just as an example, he says, they recently did a complex part in about 6 weeks, and he thinks in their normal old process, it would have likely taken closer to something like 26 weeks and still very likely not been as good a part as they came up with in 6 weeks. So just what an amazing reinforcement of how important those upfront processes are to the overall business. And he even mentioned that in the last quarter of 22 versus the last quarter of 23, they did double the revenue with the same equipment, essentially, and people, just better processes, better throughput, better focus. So yeah, call to action to focus on that in your business. He also mentions really leaning into and focusing on some of the soft skills. And I love this one little story. He came up with a new slogan and logo while he was mowing his grass one day and ran inside, sketched it down. And that's the new slogan is class, courage, and will to win, which he said was actually the slogan from one of his coaches in high school, I think the football coach. And I think it's just what an amazing way to lead a team, inspire a team, which is essentially what you're doing in business. Just like a team that you're going out to compete on the field, you're doing that in your business every day, and having everyone in alignment and working towards that goal with those values are important. So anyway, and I will also just lastly say, with Mark's experience on the procurement side for years and years before he bought this shop, he brings a great insight into what shops should be doing to appeal to the types of companies that he used to work for, and he used to find vendors and approve and work on the supply side. So great insight, and I know you're going to enjoy this one. So without further ado, let's go chat with Mark. Well, good morning, Mark. Welcome to the show, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get to chat. I know we're going to get into some stuff that's very relevant. So our friend Sean Cummins introduced us. Your Colienear Machine is in a similar business, so I'd love to have you share a little bit about the business and then yourself, and we'll get into the story of how you got involved with Colienear.
Sounds great. So Colinear Machine Design's been around 35 years. We're an AS9100 machine shop. Our core competency is, I would say, medium to high complex components. We don't do anything that's super easy, no square holes with blocks in it. But really, our niche is landing gear and flight critical components. Our envelope probably is in the 12 by 12, 18 by 18 envelope. We don't do anything super small, and we don't do anything super big.
Got it.
About a 45-man machine shop. The business we took over about 2 years ago. We did about a little over $6 million first year. Last year we were at 7.2 million last year, so some decent growth. And this year we're budgeting a $9 million year this year. So been exciting as far as the growth. Yeah, we're excited about where we're going and what we're doing. And so we took over the business May of 22. It was myself and a small equity group. During COVID, their original owners had a reprioritization like many of us did, where priority shifted. They've been doing this for 35 years. As you know, running a machine shop is hard work, and they were reached a point in their life where they're like, we don't get to do this anymore. So the business went through a sale process, and a small equity team bought the business, and we took over in May of 22.
Okay. And this was sort of a family-run, mom-and-pop type origin story?
Yep. They started in a garage off their house with one machine, then two machines, then three machines, and even to the day they sold, it was still a husband and wife, and I believe that 2 or 3 of their children were also in the business as well.
Yeah, got it. There's a lot of those out there.
Yes,
So, yeah, tell me what, so maybe start with a little bit of your background. What made you qualified to take over and grow and run and mature a business like this?
Yeah, so I probably have one of the more unique backgrounds. Is actually, I used to sit on the opposite side of machine shops for the last 10, 15 years. So my background is in supply chain and aerospace. So I was a commodity manager, ran supply chains for Safran, MG Aerospace. And actually, Colienear was one of my vendors in a previous life. So I had known
Oh, wow. Okay.
kind of their capabilities from a business process and from a machining side. So I was intimate as anyone could be from a vendor customer relationship. But yeah, like the last 10, 15 years, I've been in machine shops all over North America in aerospace, managing commodity strategies. So it's interesting that I've had this perspective now where, as I'm dealing with my customers, like I used to be the customer. So I know their struggles. I know, the challenge they have, the pressures they're under, how they like to see their information, what information they care about. So it's been a nice, unique skill set to have where I can, speak to them to where I know what their pain points are because I lived it for so many years. Now, I don't think anything really prepares you to take on and run a machine shop for the first time. I'll be honest with you. There's not anything in my past or anyone's past until you do it that really prepares you for it. But yeah, it's an awesome job, and like I was telling other people, like I can't imagine doing anything else after doing this. Like it's just such a fulfilling, and the pace of it's amazing.
Yeah, you've got bitten by the bug. That's awesome.
Yes.
So, well, yeah. So before we get into what you've done at Colienear, I would really love, if you don't mind, to dig into your previous jobs, because the audience of this podcast largely is shops that are selling into what you used to do, right? And many of them especially want to get into the aerospace and the defense and the higher end markets that were probably, hopefully margins are a bit better. It's a little bit less competitive because you need certifications and you need to have these things in place. So I certainly have some of my own, beliefs and thoughts about what it takes to be a supplier at that level, because my shop was, we served aerospace and defense clients largely. But yeah, I'd love to have you share, just advice that would be applicable and relevant to shops that are out there that want to get into these markets or solidify themselves or do better. They already have a foot in the door, but they're not thriving in it. They're not, what can and should shops be doing to really make them an appealing vendor to these markets?
I always tell people is whenever you're with a customer, you have to have a problem that you're solving. So with any of these aerospace customers, it's usually they need their parts and they need them on time, and need them right. So really it's focusing your business around how do you, tailor to where you're proactive, your communication, you are able to, make the parts they need. You have the pedigree in the materials and and the other things. If you're trying to, break into, these markets, really you have to have your processes is locked down. Because in aerospace, like you have to have a conforming part, but as you know, you have to have conforming paperwork. So if you don't have both of those together, you really have to have those buttoned up. And if you don't, like, your life will get very painful trying to support those industries because they are unforgiving. You know, there's a reason why you command higher margins. It's they have certain expectations. So really, I think if you're looking to take that step, you have to have some pretty difficult internal conversations about what your appetite for risk is, you know, what you're really wanting to sign up for, what your level of diligence and paperwork and the finer details really is. Because even as someone as a shop who, you know, has been aerospace for a long time is, you know, it's a grind day to day, like to be that dialed into that, you know, that kind of paperwork. And it's not easy and it's not for everyone. But I always say, like, once you get the bug, like it's aerospace is the industry that, you know, once it's in your blood, you can't get it out, but it's not for everyone. So I think as an organization, you have to have some, you know, internal conversations of why you want to do it. And, you know, is your organization really up for taking that next step?
So, yeah, good advice for sure. For shops that have already taken that leap, maybe they've been AS certified for a few years, but they're still not getting the traction they would have hoped for. Besides, I mean, and the advice of, you know, understand the problem you're trying to solve for that customer, and maybe that is the advice. But what are ways that they can, you know, ultimately make those personal connections with buyers or engineers or the people that will invite them into the supply chain and ultimately approve them? Because sometimes even just getting noticed is the hard part, right?
What can
people do?
Tough. It's shots on goal. It's going to trade shows. It's, you know, getting your product out there, getting your name out there. You know, really targeting, you know, what you're going after. You know, if you're a landing gear supplier, you know, learning who the landing gear players are. If you're, you know, you're wanting to grow your, you know, bushing, you know who's buying the bushings. You know, really maybe targeting, you know, more of a specific customer based around your niche or your pedigree. You know, it is tough to get in front of people. It's really just word of mouth, you know, networking, you know, getting your name out there as much as possible. And then when you get those opportunities, really just capitalize on them. Because sometimes, you know, you only get a first shot. You know, you get the first job, the first part. So maybe making sure that it's the right fit, making sure you're successful, putting your best foot forward. Those are the things. Because one bad job out of the gate, sometimes that's the last job.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm going to invite people, if they haven't listened to episode 47, I think, with Nathan from Ouroboros. He talked about this exactly, and he got an opportunity to get a foot in the door with SpaceX. And the first project was very challenging, both on timeline and the part itself, really complex, difficult part. And but he, you know, they stayed up, nights on end, making sure that this job was on their dock in the morning, on the day it was due, perfect paperwork, perfect quality, right? And he's like that. And they put the part in a minivan from in Denver and drove it to Southern California. We're there at 6 a.m. the day it was due. And he's like, you know, we went from one buyer. I think he said 6 months later, they were in 11 buyers at SpaceX. And if they hadn't done that, if they'd been late or if they'd had an NCR or, you know, some kind of deviation request, there's no chance they would have been, you know, adopted that quickly throughout the organization, right?
No, 100%. And and that's that problem that solved, that they built trust with them right out of the gate. And that's what it's about. People deal with who they trust. And if you're there, you're reliable, you communicate, you take care of them. Like that's really the key in this business.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Awesome.
Oftentimes,
go ahead.
I would say oftentimes sometimes it's as lucky as they can't find anyone to make it, and you're the guy dumb enough to chew it off and make that job that no one else wants to take. Sometimes that's what it takes, you know?
Yes, it absolutely does. I'm going to ask this. If you can't think of one, that's fine. But can you think of a supplier that you worked with in your previous roles that did something, you know, memorable that sort of got your attention and you decided to give them a chance and try them out? And whether it's, you know, a really great pitch at a trade show or something they, you know, sent you in an email or a phone call or some way they got your attention and got their foot in the door.
I've actually had somebody offer me like the first job free before. I didn't take it because but like it caught my attention. They said your first job is always free for a new customer or whatever.
Right.
So that's a slippery slope.
That's an interesting strategy.
I think it's like,
kidding.
I think it could be like a $200,000 order. I don't think they would necessarily do that, but it caught my attention. Caught my attention for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's talk about Colienear now. So I'd love to, add a little more color to, what the state of the organization was, what you've done to mature it and, build their processes, build their systems, or whatever it is that you've done to have the growth clearly that you've already had. That's the good stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So really the couple of things we did was, first and foremost, for any business, you need clean financials. So our CFO came in, cleaned up the financials, got our shop rates and all that in line. So we knew what we were doing, from a financial standpoint. Then we, really attacked the scheduling of the shop. You got to be on time to your customers. So really, operational throughput was first. So we brought in a planner. We redid the scheduling process. Really doubled down on, operational improvements there. And next was, once we had those things going, just, leveraging the talent we had and, kind of just, cleaning up the already, good pedigree we had. So, we had a lot of good technical talent in the business that was probably in the wrong seats. So we moved a lot of those guys, from, on the shop floor to our front end engineering staff. So now we built a brand new engineering team. With a manager and 6 or 7 engineers now, whereas before there was no engineering staff. It was just a bunch of machinists running around. We invested heavily into our CAM software, so we went into Spree CAM software. So now we have full posts. We run all DMG Mori's, so we have full posts for all our machines. And just now we don't do no programming is done on the floor. It's all done offline. We get a job, we hand it to the floor, fully programmed, ready to go. So moving, that technical talent to the front of the business, being proactive, having a schedule, programming offline. So now you're taking more of an operational, throughput standpoint versus we've always made nice parts, but we couldn't make them efficiently or quickly enough. So now we're getting to that mindset. And then just throughout, just keep adding talent throughout the business as you can. Always upgrading, whether it's technical talent, business talent, people or would make these small businesses go.
Well, you just said a lot of really good stuff there, and I'd love to rewind a little bit and talk about the beginning part of that. So you said the financials and quoting. What did you find when you dug into the pricing and the quoting and how estimating was working?
Yeah, so we found that the majority of the order book was underpriced. And that was due to just they were making some bad assumptions on their cost structure for the bidding. So they were 30 to 40% on most work. And unfortunately, most of our work is long-term contracts. So we were sitting with 3, 4, 5 years worth of POs on some of these pricing. So,
oh, wow.
So on one hand, it's an attractive part of the business that you have that kind of security. But on the other hand, now we were tied into some unfavorable commercial terms. So we tried to manage it without going back to our customers originally. But it got to be untenable. Was the more product we would produce, the faster we'd go, the more cash we would lose. So we had to have some difficult conversations, some difficult conversations with some customers about raising prices on existing contracts and POs. So it was a good experience. Some of them went really, really well. It kind of reinforced our market position of our partnership with them. Nobody wants to take a price increase, but there was an appreciation that we had a better handle on our books. We knew what we were doing. There was a sense of competency that we would come back to them with hard data and factual, numbers, whereas maybe in the past they hadn't had that level of certainty with a supplier before.
Right. Interesting. So, and this is probably where your experience being on the buying side was useful because kind of what the buyers are dealing with. Maybe how did that inform how you approached, you talked about with hard numbers. So do you come in like with an open spreadsheet, like here's where we're at, here's where our costs are, here's the margin we want to make? Like how transparent were you with all that?
We were very transparent. We came in with a full open book costing. We had material, we had OSP, we showed, margins to a degree, so it was very easy to show because the numbers were so bad. There wasn't much to hide. It was very clear.
Right.
So yeah, no one wants to take a price increase, but we worked through it. And I think to your point about, I knew kind of how they had to package it. Like, in some programs, people have more room than others. So like you have to do a little bit of horse trading. It's like, okay, we're going to look at it from an overall standpoint instead of a part by part basis. Like we need to get here overall healthy. So we kind of gave it back to them where they could say, all right, on this program, we have X% we can move. This program, we really don't have anything. In this program, we can do this. So, a combination of that, payment terms, there's a lot of different levers you can pull to do that. But,
right.
I would say for the most part, we came out stronger relationships with our customers. They got to see a little bit more how we do business, and we got to learn a lot more about their businesses as new owners too. So I looked at it as a negative going into it, but at the end of the day, it strengthened our business and our partnerships with our customers.
Got it. So yeah, you can take something that seems like a real negative and approach it the right way, the right communication, the right, overall strategy, and can end up strengthening that relationship. I sometimes, I've written and talked about how if you have, a late part or some mistake that's been made, some problem that you're having that's going to risk delivering, that's never good news to share. But if you approach it the right way, you can actually come out on the positive side where that client understands the business better, understands the part number, maybe the risks involved or something. You can make a net positive out of the whole situation. So it sounds like that's what you did there.
Now, I would say that's from a macro perspective. There are a few customers in there that it didn't go well, and I would say the relationship went a little bit the other way. But overall, I would say the majority of them went to the better.
Got it. Was there some of the contracts you actually lost, or part numbers you lost?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, that's. I guess the takeaway there is even if the customer's not real pleased about it, if your performance has been there to back up why it's worth paying that money, that's I guess a card in your hand. So if you don't have the performance, not cost wise, but if you're late or your quality is not good, you're not in a strong place for that negotiation. I would guess, huh?
Yeah, and part of the issue is these parts are quite challenging. So even if let's say our performance wasn't there, but from a quality standpoint, we've pretty good quality. But if you're looking to move these parts, they're challenging to move, and it's not
significant risk to the client.
Yeah, it's a very significant risk. So and we did factor into our equation, but at the end of the day, it was really we need to get healthy to keep supporting our customers long term was the ultimate goal, and that was our message to them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good. I'd love to ask you a little bit more about bringing on a planner and moving some of your folks up into the engineering. One of the dynamics that I think is often the case in shops, especially as they are on their maturity path, there's sometimes a reluctance, or maybe not a reluctance, but not a realization about the value of more proactive planning and engineering on a project versus just win the job, throw it over the wall to manufacturing and good luck because they're, skilled at what they do. Can you talk a little bit about the investment in planning and more upfront engineering as a way to increase throughput and profitability and overall performance of the business?
Yeah, for sure. It's just like anything. Like my favorite quote in the world is it's an Abe Lincoln quote, and it says, "If you give me 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe." And it's like like there's no better like analogy for me than like in aerospace. Like everything we do is very deliberate. It's very long, challenging. Like you have to have a good plan in this industry. So like having a plan, having a schedule, having a forecast is everything in this business. So when we brought on a planner, we really wanted someone who to come in and, we wanted someone who had aerospace experience. We wanted somebody who hit the ground running because we were looking for somebody to, basically build a department up. So we, hired a recruiter and, we spent a significant amount of investment to go, to market to get somebody. And, to his benefit, he came in, got the system up and going. And, he's been with us over a year now. And, he's actually been moved on to other roles within the business. But, yeah, it's been a life-changing, piece of, data. For example, I would say last year we did, the last 3 months of last year, 2022, we did about, let's say $1 million. Well, this last quarter, with our fully planned now, we did, double that. So like order book stayed about the same. We didn't really have any much difference in like, work in front of us. That's just the true numbers of our plan coming to fruition now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so what are some of the ways that manifests itself in that throughput? Is it faster setup times? Is it better quality? Is it just better spindle utilization? Is it a bit of all those things, or anything particularly jump out to you?
We track a wide variety of all those things. We track, labor hours per setup guy. We track, total hours per machine. We track, efficiencies, utilization, and basically they all go up with better plans. Setups go faster. It actually got to the point where we were going so fast that labor became a constraint because we just couldn't set up machines fast enough. We were just going through them so quick. We're like, we've never had a problem where like we had, too many machines in setup at once because we're just blowing through jobs so quickly. There's no more of like waiting for material to come in. There's no more. And that's the thing we found is like once you fix one of these issues, the weak link pops its head up really fast. You fix your schedule, now you have a labor issue. You fix your labor issue, now you got a quality issue. You fix your quality issue, now you have whatever. So the beauty is you kind of, as you're fixing things, the next weak spot of these businesses pops up, and it's fascinating to see happen in real time.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. This is such a lot of the things that we espouse in our business are exactly what you're talking about, right? Just the importance of the planning, of offline setups, of things that just help you increase velocity on the shop floor, and having smart tools to do that. And maybe this could tie you back into, and I don't know what you think about this, but I've always had the belief that the back-end systems, like the ones that are enabling that doubling of throughput in the same, in subsequent quarters, those, I've always had the thought that those are some of the things that if you can demonstrate those systems to your client, that gives them the confidence that you have the systems in place to deliver for them and make you a less risky supplier. And this was originally informed, or just really solidified for me when years ago I was talking to a friend who was also sort of a senior supply chain person at a tier 1 aerospace company. And he said, Paul, when I go into a shop, I can just smell the chaos instantly. Like they can't hide it from me, right? And the chaos is what happens when you don't have the things that you've now put in place, right? Like you go to set up a job and the material's not there. That's just what a stupid thing to do, is go set up a job with no material, or you don't have the cutting tools, or you don't have the program done, or the fixture's not made, or you can't find the fixture even though it was made. Does that ring true to you? Like sharing that level of detail with a customer is a way of demonstrating your competence and mastery of your craft as a business?
Oh, absolutely. Like we have a customer PowerPoint that we show new customers. It's a very inside view to what we do from a planning perspective, to an engineering perspective, to our contractor view, even to how we, every part we send out for plating, we send a 3D color coded key to the plater so they know how to do it. Those things resonate. If anything, it just shows them that you have a handle on your business. You know where the pain points are, and you're really, if anything, just trying to address them at minimum and measure them and take control of them.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, these customers, they have to have confidence in you that when they give you a PO, that they're going to get a good part. It's going to be conforming. You're going to communicate to them about it. They're not going to worry about it being late. Those are the things. One of the things that I want to focus on myself this year is, of all the things we've done well, I think the thing we haven't done well enough is really just be proactive in that customer communication. Usually it's when you get prompted, that's when everyone likes to answer. So it's my challenge to myself, my team this year is give that communication before they ask for it. If a part's ahead of schedule, let them know it's ahead of schedule. If it's behind schedule, let them know. Let them know. Send them updates. Send them a picture of the part in process, whatever it may be. But getting it up in front of that communication. And we've just in the first 2 months of this year, we've done that. We've already seen a massive feedback from our customers of like, we don't know what you're doing differently, but something's different. And we're like, yeah, this is what we're doing. So yeah, that is it. So like they don't even know why it's better. Right. They just know it feels better.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love the PowerPoint or PDF you're talking about where you show your process and where you're strong in that engineering and in those systems you've built. That's a great takeaway, a great piece of advice for other shops. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So
well, I would say I did. That kind of reminds me of the question you asked me earlier. If you're looking to get into new shops, when you're getting in front of an aerospace customer, these guys are visual learners. Like most of your buyers, most of your commodity guys, a lot of them aren't machining guys. They aren't going to know a lathe from a 5-axis. They're not going to know it from a horizontal. If you have sample parts, show them an idea of the parts you make, because they'll say, "Oh, we make a part like that." Or show them a PowerPoint of where you have some of these things where, because they're at the end of the day, a lot of these guys are visual learners and they don't have the technical sophistication that you're trying to sell your business on. Sometimes you just got to make them feel warm and fuzzy about it without really any level of high level of technical ability, because sometimes they don't have that level of ability on their side.
Yeah, no. It's good advice. Early in the days of my shop, I would take a parts case with samples around and sit face to face with buyers and like, yeah, here's what we make. And I'd have pictures of the parts that were too big to carry. And you're right. All the time they're like, oh yeah, we have a part that's just like that. And it's a real pain in the butt. The vendor doesn't perform very well on this feature. And we're like, oh yeah, this is how we make this feature dead nuts every time. They're like, oh, why don't you quote it for us? Oh, great. Okay. That's a win right there. So, yeah,
it just happened to me last week. I was talking to an existing customer, and they're a smaller customer, so we hadn't really done a lot of work with them. So I was showing them what we do, and they're like, "You guys do that? You do that?" Well, I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, we have all kinds of those parts." They're like, "Send them over." So like just showing a simple PowerPoint. I got 6 new quotes this week just from that.
Oh man, that's brilliant! Awesome. So I'd love to talk about hiring and employment and people. So you've moved a bunch of senior level machinists, manufacturing folks into engineering. You had to backfill them, obviously. How are you going about doing that?
It's probably the most challenging part of my job is labor, especially with what we do. You can't just bring anybody off the street. Even if I bring in a 10, 15-year machinist, because of the complexity and the tolerances we do, there's still a learning extent there. So it's a couple of things we do. Shots on goal. You're always keeping the revolver full of people. Even if you're fully staffed, you're always, if a qualified candidate comes through the door, you're bringing them on because you just never know. Your labor turns over a decent amount at the lower levels. 2 is promote within. Everyone that's in a management role now has been somebody who's grown up in the business. We had a couple of young guys who stepped up. Our lathe manager was 28. Our milling manager was, in his 20s as well. My head of engineering is 33.
Nice.
We have a very, very young, hungry team. So I empower these guys. because they've been in the business a long time. They know what they're doing, but they just haven't been given the keys to the car yet. So a lot of these guys, I just empowered them to take off and run, and the results have been amazing.
That's fantastic. That's very cool. So, how do you have those conversations? I mean, I guess you're looking for people that seem hungry, that exhibit like some leadership potential, or how do you decide who to? Because I know there's this thing of promoting people to their level of incompetency, but that's probably more tenure based, or someone that maybe doesn't want to manage, but they're an incredible machinist, and they get forced into promotion. But how do you make sure those are going to land well?
Yeah, it's really just being able to identify what you're looking for in your leadership team. So like I'm more on the soft skills kind of guy. Like I want leaders. I want guys with grit. I want guys that hold themselves accountable, that play to win. So one of the things that we did also was we rebranded our business this year. So new logo, and then we put a new slogan: class, courage, the will to win. So really, those are the three kind of like mantras that we live our shop by. Class, we do it the right way, whether it's talking to our customers, to each other, how we handle it day to day. Courage, you do what's hard. This is a business where, it's complex parts, long cycle times. Sometimes it feels like nothing's going your way. And then will to win is, we want to be the best at what we do. So those three kind of characteristics are what I'm looking for in my leadership. Those are the guys, and everyone in those guys in that group checks that box easily. So just when I look for those three real characteristics, it makes my job of who to promote and get behind pretty easy.
Nice. So is that just a slogan, or are those also your core values?
So they are core values. They're actually kind of my core values. So one day I was mowing my grass, and I was thinking of something like we've been owning the business about 8-9 months. I'm like, we needed something new. We needed like a fresh change to like signify like we're here. So I was mowing my grass one day, and I just like had this logo like pop in my vision to like where I drove up to my house, ran inside, like sketched it on a piece of paper, and took it in. Had one of our guys mock it up, and it was this new logo with the CM with our airplane in it, and then class, courage, and will to win. And the class, courage, will to win was when I played high school football. My coach, that was our slogan for our team. It just resonated with me because he was just a real down to earth, do things the right way. If you follow the process, the results follow, and it left an impression on me. And that's how I'm running my business today, is kind of following that thought process.
I love it. That is fantastic. So besides that, that new slogan and values, did the culture in general need some upgrading? Yeah. So when I took over the business, can you share any of that?
Yeah. So when I took over the business, it was a true mom and pop. There was different shifts. Johnny machinist worked 4-hour days. Bill machinist worked 10-hour days. There was no set shift, no production. So really it was we had to reset the whole business. So we went to standardized shifts. But by doing that, we also decided to lean forward on some of the benefits. So we increased vacation time. We readjusted a lot of pay for some people that were probably under market value. So we did some things coming out of the business to try to buy some goodwill with the team, because we knew there was going to be a big culture change. A level of accountability. We were going to do things a lot differently than previous ownership. So the approach I took was it's called turn the dial. You can't do it overnight, right? So like every week, every day, just moving that dial a little bit to the right. And really it's, accountability, following the processes, doing the normal things that you did. But yeah, it took a long time to get there. But it's probably the most rewarding thing is to see the transformation of the team, the business, the physical shop. We reorganized, we cleaned up. We've done so many things to try to bring this business to the 21st century, and I love seeing the growth from the team from it too. The amount of people who responded from it has been amazing.
Did you have anyone on the team that was not excited about all the change?
Oh yeah, we've had some turnover. We've had to break a few eggs to make some omelets along the way. I'm not going to lie. It's been bumpy at times, but these were things that had to happen. Everyone was given a fair shake. Everyone was given tons of latitude, coaching to do it. But at the end of the day, accountability and those things are what rule the day. And some people showed themselves the door, and some people we had to have some more difficult conversations with.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any folks that were clearly good people, but just had trouble with the change itself, and you needed to coach them and support them through that change? And once you got to the other side of it, they've been really solid?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of people, the more the direct labor, that was kind of their, a lot of there was just, they don't like change in general. Like whether it has nothing to do with you or whoever it is, it's just change is change to them. They like their set hours. They're like their machines. They like to do things consistently. So yeah, there was a lot of trust. You had to buy in at first. And, some people it was immediately, and some people probably took over a year to get there. But at the end of the day, the core values I had was to do that was I don't ask anyone to do that I wouldn't do myself. So, I used to run machines, a long time ago, but, I haven't done it a long time, but, I'll go out there and I've polished parts. I'll move parts. I'll do whatever it takes to show the team that I'm a servant leader. Nobody works more hours than I do. And I'm intentional about that. And I have a pretty firm stance that if the shop is open, I'm in the building. Like I don't make anyone work a day that I'm not willing to work myself. So it's getting harder to do that these days, but as we're growing. But yeah, if we're open a Saturday or overtime, that I'm in the building as well. So usually with bagels.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Usually with bagels. I like it. I was going to say, if you start running multiple shifts, that makes for some long weeks.
Yeah.
Have you, the growth that you've experiencing, is it mostly growth within existing clients, or have you also been attacking the sales and marketing side to bring in new clients that weren't there when you bought the business?
A little bit of both, but I would say mostly existing. Really just, MD Helicopters is probably our biggest customer today. So if you're familiar with their story, they're growing right now as well. So that's been a nice partner here recently. And then, just existing customers, really just getting out there, educating them on what we can do. And then we brought on a few new strategic customers. It was amazing. We had a few customers that we did 3 or 4 jobs a year with that when I went out and met with, and these are 10-year plus customers. When I went out and met with and kind of walked them through what we do, they had no idea of our capability, our machine list, our pedigree.
Right.
I had one interesting conversation last week with a customer. We've done 3 or 4 jobs with them, pretty consistently year over year. Pretty simple jobs, not high dollar. And when I was walking through my presentation, they were like, their customer. They were like, "You do these landing gear components?"
Yeah, you were saying.
I'm like, yeah. And they're like, "We thought you were like a low cost, more commodity type machine house." And I'm like, no, it's the exact opposite of that. Like, so like within I wasn't even back to my office, and I had RFQs, and I've got a couple POs already from them, just on educating them on our capability of an existing customer.
Yeah. That reminds me of another guest that talked about how just he likes to get out in person, even for the clients that are not nearby. I think he said quarterly, or at least a couple times a year. You just got to get face to face, communicate, show them. Yeah, like you said, show them your sample parts. Show them, oh, you guys do assembly work? I had no idea you did the assembly work. Why don't you take these parts and give me a turnkey solution, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's sage advice right there. That's good. Let's see here. So in this sort of turnaround story, what would you say are some of the, the top one or two most important things you did that have made the biggest impact?
I would say definitely creating the engineering department. That's been the biggest change in the business. And we actually didn't do that until the end of last year. So we're probably 4 or 5 months into this, and it's been the biggest boon there is. But really, it's just getting everything under control, like knowing your business like inside and out, like how your cash comes in, like your unit economics, like really understanding how you spend your money day to day has been the biggest probably eye-opening thing to help you run your business better. Knowing where every dollar goes, knowing how fast your customers pay, how fast your vendors need to pay. Really understanding that conversion cycle is probably to any new owner or any new person, like learning that quickly as possible, I would say is probably the biggest benefit they would have to do it. And then just probably an overall thing that's just empowering people. Like, most people just want to be involved in the process. They want to have a say. They want to, they all want to do a good job. Giving them the ability and, power to do that is everything.
Mm-hmm. So I'd love to focus on this engineering group for a second. So you talked about the planner, right? So that's fairly understandable, right? Someone that's making sure your job plan is really well outlined, exact operations and, sequences and all those things. What are the other folks in this engineering group doing? Are they building your inspection and quality plan up front? Is it more robust, programming and fixturing methods? Can you describe a little bit more about what the rest of them are doing?
All of that. So the way it works is we run it like project engineers. So we have a turning and milling side, and when a part gets awarded, Brian, our lead engineer, will assign it to whoever's the project engineer himself, Josh, whoever. And then they basically, from cradle to grave, create the inspection plan, all the gauging, the tool list, the programming, fixturing, method manufacturing, the routing. They also do the what we call a baseline, which is they go through all the specs, ASL, contract review. So by the time it hits the floor, the part has been programmed, engineered, fixtured, tools are here, inspection sheets, gauges, the inspection plan, FAI plan, everything is laid out, solid models, op sketches, placards, everything is done for it hits the floor. So it's a nice buttoned up package of technical data where, any Joe Schmo she'll take it, set it up and hit the ground running with little involvement.
That sounds pretty perfect. That's a good summary of why that is so important. And I imagine maybe just, if you will, just to put a bow on it, contrast a job that shows up like that versus how a job used to show up. And what does that mean on the shop floor to your team?
So I just had this conversation. We had a hot casting come through. It's a swash plate for a helicopter. So it's super challenging part, critical. But it was one of the first parts that we ran through cradle to grave through our process, and our customer wanted to expedite it. So everything along the way was buttoned up perfectly. We did it in 6 weeks for machining, planning, fixturing, out to OSP. Whereas I would have certainly said if this was the old way we did it, 26 weeks easily. And it probably wouldn't have been right.
Wow.
So it's not even it's like night and day, the difference of these things. It's just the level of accuracy, the less rework we have to do, just everything about it just makes your life, the guys on the floor are more efficient because they're not hunting for tools, they're not asking a million questions, they're not trying to dial these parts in, at the machine. It's it really changes your whole business. I can't emphasize it enough.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. If anyone was ever not a believer of the importance of that upfront planning and quality processes, what you just described there, going from 26 weeks, maybe not even right, to 6 weeks done, perfect parts. That's massive.
Yeah.
So I imagine that would be one of my questions that I often wrap up with is, what's your best advice for other shops? Would it be to focus on their engineering processes, or would it be something different?
I mean, I think every shop's different. If you're a highly engineered aerospace shop, then yeah, I think leveraging as much as you can do with your upfront planning and engineering and not on the floor is the way to do it, no matter what you're doing. Yeah, like just having good processes and, really understanding how you're running your business and your parts is it's critical, because not every business is the same. Everyone has the same pedigree, same machine, same perspective. Really understanding what works for you and leveraging that, I think, is the key. Maybe you're a really good lathe shop, so doubling down on being a lathe house is where you need to go. Just really knowing what your strength is and leveraging it. With ours it's definitely our engineering.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think that also, that knowing what you're good at ties into the advice you gave earlier. When you're trying to win, get your foot in the door, win those customers, like niching down into a specific thing you're good at and not trying to be a jack of all trades. Right. I know, this whole riches are in the niches, quote that you sometimes hear. It gets reinforced to me time and time again that is so true. And the shops that are doing the best are the ones that are just laser focused on being incredibly good at the things they are good at, and not trying to take other jobs, even if they might sometimes get a little light on work. Doesn't mean you should open the floodgates to things that are not your core competency, right?
It's very hard to do, because it's hard to turn work away.
It's easier said than done.
It's so hard to do, but you're 100% right. Knowing who you are, and it's more importantly knowing who you're not is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome, Mark. So if people want to learn more about Colienear, get a hold with you, how would you suggest they get in touch? So
email mark@colienearmachine.com. Also, you can find us online at colienearmachine.com as well. And I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out.
Okay.
And if you're ever in North Jersey, our doors are always open, so feel free to pop by, and I'd love to show you what we're up to.
Yeah, and you are specifically in what city again?
Sparta,
that's right. Yeah, I grew up in Montclair. I remember we talked about this when we first got introduced. So
that's
awesome, Mark. Well, thank you. I will make sure all those links are in the show notes and in what we share. But this has been super insightful. I know that your experience, both on the procurement side and now on the supplier side, has brought a lot of insight that shops will take away and better their own businesses. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.